Welcome to today's MOOC lecture. The topic of our discussion today is the idea of global resistance, global civil society, NGOs, and global social movements. We'll start with the idea of global resistance. Simply put, global resistance implies resistance to the state-centric paradigms of international relations which marginalizes morality and ethical questions. For example, the dominant framework of international relations, realism, believes that states are the primary actors in international relations, and every action of the state is motivated by national interest. And in order to maximize national interest, the states intend to achieve more and more power. Morality do not play any role in dictating the actions of the state. Morality is only used by the state as a cover to justify their actions taken on the basis of strategic considerations. So this way of understanding international relations marginalizes ethical and moral ideas and questions. The idea of global resistance highlight the importance of bringing into focus the moral and ethical ideas and issues of international relations which affect our daily lives. And this idea of global resistance is encapsulated in important categories and concepts. And these categories or concepts are global civil society, global NGOs, and global social movements. Now these categories are interrelated, but in our discussion today, for the sake of simplicity, we'll discuss each of these issues or each of these categories separately one by one. So first we'll start with global civil society. In order to understand the idea and role of global civil society, we have to first understand the concept of civil society. What is civil society? Civil society is a domain of autonomous activity. What do we mean by autonomous here? Autonomous means free from the control of the state. So civil society is an autonomous realm which is outside the state, free from the control of the state. And it is a space where people belonging to different walks of life can meet in public and discuss their common concerns and common agendas. The idea of civil society is associated with a number of important thinkers. Two most important thinkers in this regard are Hegel and Gramsci. So in order to understand the idea of civil society, we have to very briefly understand or discuss the ideas of these two very important thinkers. Now Hegel sees civil society as an intermediate stage between family and state. According to Hegel, family is thesis, civil society is antithesis, and state is synthesis. Family is based upon the idea of mutual love. The family members take care of each other and they love each other. But human beings have complex needs. They are social animals. So the human existence cannot be limited only to an institution like family. In order to fulfill other socializing needs of human beings, a separate institution or a separate space is needed, and that is civil society. And according to Hegel, civil society is primarily based upon material interest. So here also people compete with each other. And then finally, the institution of state, which is according to Hegel, is a divine institution, and it is a God merged on earth. It exists for the moral perfection of human beings. But in order to reach that stage of a moral state, we need a vibrant civil society. Then comes Gramsci with his unique conceptualization of civil society. Gramsci discusses the role of civil society in advanced capitalism. And the basic role of civil society, according to Gramsci, is creating hegemony. What is hegemony? According to Gramsci, hegemony means consensual domination as opposed to coercive domination. There are multiple institutions in civil society, like religious institution, educational institution, different sorts of NGOs. Now all of these institutions, according to Gramsci, inculcate the values of capitalism into our minds in such a way that what is unjust appears just to us. And as a result, we, without any need for coercion, without any compulsion, we lend our support to the existing capitalist structure. So this is how Gramsci understood the role of civil society. Now, global civil society is a space where actors, organizations across the world unite in order to satisfy their common agendas. And often these issues are public issues which concern the lives of people across the world. Therefore, the global civil society tries to project itself as a moral conscience of the entire world. Why such a space in the form of global civil society emerged? What are the reasons for its emergence? That is something we need to look at very closely. One of the most important reasons for the rise of modern global civil society is globalization. Globalization is drive towards a globalized economic system dominated by institutions, supranational institutions, which are not responsible or accountable to national governments or national institutions. Because of globalization, the contact between people across the world has increased considerably. As a result, actors and organizations across the world have come together in order to raise concerns which are common to them. And there is another very important reason which also contributed towards the emergence of global civil society. That reason is emergence of new perspectives in international relations. As I have already highlighted, that perspectives, the dominant perspectives in international relations have mostly been state-centric, like realism and neorealism. But the emergence of new perspectives like liberalism and constructivism, they have played a role by enabling us to look beyond state-centric international relations, because they highlight the role of other institutions apart from the states, like NGOs, social movements, etc. Lastly, Internet has also played a role. Internet has given rise to an online space where people from different nationalities without any barriers can connect to each other and discuss their common concerns. As a result, a space has emerged where people can freely discuss their ideas, their concerns, their common agendas, and this has also to an extent contributed to the rise of global civil society. What are the important roles that this global civil society is playing nowadays? The first important role that global civil society plays is agenda setting. It has set agenda on a multiple issues, ranging from climate change, human rights, nuclear proliferation, information revolution, development issues, and many other issues. And they have shaped agendas on these issues by encouraging increasing discussion on these important issues, which have trans-border relevance and which affect our daily lives. The second important role that global civil society plays is in policy making. There are many issues which require global policy because they have transnational implications. Those issues are not confined to national borders, but states and markets, corporate bodies, they often ignore these issues because those issues often directly do not affect their interest. And in such a situation, global civil society has taken upon itself the responsibility of campaigning on these issues and persuading the national governments to make policies, global policies on these issues, such as climate change, development, various development issues, human rights issues, and many more issues like this. Lastly, global civil society has also played an important role in setting global norms and creating consensus on multiple issues. Now, shared norms are important nowadays for a global system. And global civil society has played an enormously important role in creating global norms, shared norms on a host of issues. And this has given rise to a feeling that despite our national differences, despite our different identities, we all belong to a global system. The idea of global citizen has gained increasing currency in recent times. And the idea that on certain issues, the whole humankind has to develop some consensus and work together in resolving those issues and those problems has also gained acceptance. And global civil society has played a very important role in creating such consensus often. But the idea of global citizen is still a very incipient idea. And it is still subordinate to the overarching framework of national security and national power. Now we'll discuss the role of transnational NGOs. Now, transnational NGOs work on public issues and they claim independence from the control of national government. They claim that they are not dictated by national interest of any particular state, and they are also free from the profit-making agenda of corporate bodies. Their sources of fund are supposed to come from private sources, not from state, and even not directly from corporate bodies. And this independence from the profit-making mentality of the corporate bodies, the national interest-centric paradigm of the state, make them independent and also create a great deal of moral authority for them. So in today's time, what are the important roles that these NGOs are playing? The NGOs today play a role in creating international laws, international norms on a number of issues, such as prohibition of chemical weapons, such as human treatment of prisoners of war, banning capital punishment in a number of countries. So, on such public issues, the NGOs campaign and try to create global norms. And the role of NGOs has also become very important in the development sector. Why? Because of increasing privatization, the state has increasingly receded from development activities. And the state is increasingly outsourcing the development functions of the government to the NGOs. As a result, the role of NGOs has become important in development initiatives. And this has raised the importance of the NGOs to a great extent. But there are various problem areas in the functioning of the NGOs. It is often alleged that there is lack of transparency as far as the working of the NGOs are concerned. It is not clear how the NGOs make decisions, what is their internal structure, how they choose different issues for campaign. And then there is also allegation of misuse of funds, and dubious sources of funding. It is often alleged that though the NGOs claim to be free from the control of the national governments and corporate bodies, they often receive funds from these bodies in a covert manner, and as a result, they propagate the agenda and interest of the bodies from which they receive funds. Foreign funding of the NGOs in recent time in India has become a very contentious issue. The government has clamped down on certain NGOs on the ground that their sources of funding or their foreign sources of funding are dubious, and these NGOs have often come under scanner for acting against India's national interest. So therefore, while the role of the NGOs in present time is very important, it is also necessary to scrutinize and analyze what kind of roles the NGOs are playing in practice. In the last part of our discussion, we'll briefly highlight global social movements. Now, as you all know, social movement is a collective activity organized by groups and individuals who want to bring about some change in the social and political structure. So the idea of resistance to status quo is inbuilt in the idea of social movements. And starting from 1970s, many of the social movements started to become global. A number of global issues emerged, ranging from climate change to human rights to nuclear proliferation, which required global actors to come together and start a massive public campaign to save the future of the world. And it is in this context that transnational social movement or global social movement run by actors, individuals across borders become a powerful phenomenon. And often these social movements are run by and driven by the initiatives of global NGOs or transnational NGOs. What are primarily their demands? Broadly seen, primarily they focus on inclusive global decision making, decentralization of power, and a framework which seeks to save the world from different catastrophic events like nuclear war, global warming, and so and so. Now, why global social movement has become a very important phenomenon in modern times? One of the reasons for it is globalization, because as we have already discussed, globalization has connected actors and organizations across borders. Plus, globalization, while it has become successful in many countries, but in other countries, particularly in the developing world, it has given rise to lopsided development, where many people have lost their livelihood because of the globalization-centric model of development. So, therefore, on lopsided international development, there has to be some significant activism, and the global social movement often point out the various flaws of globalization. To a large extent, it has today become an anti-globalization movement also. So, seen from this perspective, while globalization has created a scenario where global social movements could rise, but global social movement has often resisted globalization too. So, as a concluding remarks, we can say that these categories like global civil society, global social movements, global NGOs are interrelated categories. They cannot be separated, and their role has increasingly become important in international relations. In today's international relation, it is not possible to simply focus on state and not to take into account these important actors. And these important actors matter because They campaign on public issues, those issues which are often not taken up by state and market. So therefore, there is a need to strengthen this space outside the domains of state and market. But there is also a need to ensure that this space is not hijacked by the interest of the state and the market.